1816 at Mission Dolores during the Russian expedition on the Rurik by a fellow named Louis Choris. And even though they were baptized and they were not allowed to perform sacred dances, they were allowed to perform secular performances for distinguished European guests. They still had their flicker-feathered headbands, they had their feather boas, abalone pendants, clam and olive shell beads, and this kind of opposites that you see there tied into their cosmology. It's called a moiety system. It means halves. And they divided their universe amongst the people between deer and bear, land and water. And there was complex reciprocal relationships between these moieties. And you could be of an opposite moiety in the same family. I don't want to kill you with anthropological stuff. What little there was preserved of their sacred narratives, we no longer call them Indian myths or Indian mythologies, these were narratives. And was that there was a floating feather on the water. The feather turned into Eagle, who was one of the first people. Was joined by Coyote, the ubiquitous trickster character, and a very powerful first person, Hummingbird. We don't think of hummingbirds being very powerful, but what? And the culture hero, the folk hero, was called Kaknú, Sparrowhawk. He became, there's stories about Kaknú and Sparrowhawks kind of saving people and fending off dangerous entities that affected the community. From reconstructed information from the missions, we can see that there were a climb of what we know as villages, districts, and maybe independent tribes. They were intermarried with each other, and in some cases over long distances. The intermarriage was usually amongst the nobility, the elites. They were a stratified series of tribes and chiefdoms. What we know of California, which you all appreciate, how many of you have seen the golden hills of California? You realize, prior to 1769, them hills were never golden anywhere in the state. All that junk you see out there is imported old world grasses because California was completely overgrazed. So it would be green all year round with various kinds of bunch grasses. The Indians burned the land in order to maintain a park-like environment. California Indians were not the only ones. The burning of the land affected the high yields of grass seeds and other plants that yielded fruit. It affected created large herds of herbivores. They hunted antelope in this area. They hunted Bambi. They hunted two types of elk. Roosevelt elk, which is larger, and the Tule elk, which we find in this region in the archaeological record. We know that captains kept black bears as pets, which most of you no doubt have at home also. Sure. They're wonderful on these sofas. And threatening people in large numbers in California were grizzly bears, and you would not dream about grizzly bears. So grizzly bears competed with human populations for the natural food resources within California. The revised estimated population of California in 1769 was between 1 to 1.5 million Indians. By 1920, there were less than 20,000 left alive. Wow. The San Francisco Bay became an important highway in terms of trade and communication for purposes of military alliances and for also purposes through intermarriage and trade of prestigious materials. We see a small Tule boat here. Some of the Tule boats were much larger than these, and they were in use all the way up to the late 19th century. So we talk about acorns being the staple of California Indians. It's a myth. That's a myth. Acorns is terrible tasting stuff. When I was up in Mendocino with the Manchester Rancheria with the Pomo, there was an 80-year-old woman named Aunt Winifred. She was the chairwoman. She had her grandmother's pestles and mortars in her house, reading the newspaper, yelling about Jerry Brown. And I asked her, what kind of acorns you like, Aunt Winifred? Do you like black oak, coast live oak, etc.? She flips down the newspaper, blinks at me, and she says, acorns? Phooey! Can't stand the stuff. It's as if Indians had no culinary tastes. Fishing was extremely important, from the Pajaro River to Alaska, with the Steelhead and the Salmon Run rivers. Sturgeon was taken in the bay, and the early Europeans would write that the skies would be blackened by the waterfowl, because this was the flyway. Now when you're driving on 101, you see an egret, and you take out your camera to take a picture of the little boy. They're slowly coming back. They went after the pinnipeds, and we also find evidence that they butchered whale. Up in Scotts Valley, Highway 17, you all gone over the mountain of Santa Cruz to go on the rides? Okay, so Santa Cruz 177 is where they built the City Hall. We have an exhibit there. 1980, 83, and 87, we had a consortium of universities and community college volunteers to come out to save the site, which was principally destroyed by someone who says, we don't need to do any archaeology, we don't need to know anything about Indians. He tried to bulldoze and destroy the site. So the Santa Cruz Society sued him, and we got a couple of bucks to do radiocarbon dates. So this is doing one of the excavations on the Memorial Day weekend. I had the upper area that you see there, my name, and that's me when I had more hair and kind of darker. Anyway, I'm standing on a surface where it's this orange here. That surface dates between 7,500 to 8,500 years. The site went back even further. So this is what we found. We found these distinctive spear points made out of Monterey chert, which occurs to the west of the San Andreas Fault. These are the oldest, it's like a flint. Okay, it's a quartz family material. It's actually oil agate that occurs principally near Año Nuevo. We found handstones. This is made out of quartzite, battering and pecking, but there was bright red staining on it. And the bright red staining I brought to the geology boys at San Jose State, and they took their calculators and their XRFs, it's called, X-ray diffraction, and the peak that showed what this was mercury sulfide. Anybody know what mercury sulfide comes from? Say it louder. Say it louder. Almaden. Yes, quicksilver mine. Sorry. Right, quicksilver mine. It is probably evidence that these Indians and their neighbors were mining the quicksilver mines between 7,500 to 8,500 years ago.
What would they do with it?